Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. If you're new here, consider subscribing. It really helps keep these stories coming. And while you're here, let me know in the comments where you're listening from. Now, sit back, relax, and let's get into the story. You probably don't think much about people like me. That's fine. Honestly, I prefer it that way. Out of sight, out of mind. Most folks don't want to know what flows beneath their city. But on the day everything started falling apart, being down there is the only reason I'm still around to talk about it. My name's Joel. I've worked sewer maintenance for 17 years. City tunnels, pumping stations, valve checks, the usual. Not glamorous, not clean, but reliable. You learn to trust your instincts in the dark. That day started like any other. I grabbed my thermos, threw on the brown coveralls, and headed to the central pumping control around 6:30 a.m. The call came in at 7:04. Water pressure drop flagged in the east sector, near the old industrial zone. I figured it was just another busted line. Maybe rats chewing wires again. Maybe debris blocking a flow gate. I volunteered to check it out solo. Big mistake. I parked the van near an alley entrance and climbed down into the access shaft. Flashlight clipped to my chest, tool belt clinking with every step. The moment I touched bottom, I smelled something off. And trust me, I know every kind of stench that creeps through these tunnels. This wasn't waste, gas, mold. This was different. Sweet and rotten, like meat left out in the sun, but somehow worse. My radio crackled. "You see anything, Joel?" "Not yet. Smells weird though, real weird." "You want backup?" I hesitated. "Nah, I'll be fine. Probably just a dead possum or something." I walked deeper, water sloshing at my boots. The tunnel curved right, then left. My flashlight flickered just for a second, but enough to get on my nerves. I tapped it, still worked. But I felt like I wasn't alone anymore. The silence wasn't natural. The constant drip, drip, drip had stopped. Even the rats were quiet. That's when I saw the first body. Floated face down in a shallow pool near the junction gate. I thought it was a homeless guy at first. We find those sometimes. People slipping through grates, or worse, hiding down here. I radioed in. Found a body, calling it in. Static. "Dispatch, do you copy?" Nothing. I leaned over, nudged the shoulder with my boot. It moved. I don't mean it floated. I mean it twitched. Then it twisted its neck around, bones crackling, and looked at me with eyes that didn't reflect any light. Milky, sunken, wrong. I staggered back, heart racing. The thing scrambled to its feet with a jerk, like a puppet with cut strings suddenly pulled taut. It was fast, too fast. I didn't wait, I turned and ran. I heard it behind me, splashing through the water, moaning, low and deep like its lungs were full of mud. I took the left fork without thinking and slammed the first gate I could find shut behind me. The clang echoed so loud it made my ears ring. Silence. I breathed hard, waited, listened, nothing. I checked my radio again. Dead. My phone, no signal. Only option was forward. There's a ladder about half a mile ahead that leads to an old storm access near 5th Street. I started walking again, quieter this time, keeping my light steady, ears wide open. Then I heard it. Not the one behind me, more of them. Feet dragging through the sludge. Some fast, some slow, some making wet choking sounds, and I swear, some were laughing. A dry, broken, rattling kind of laugh. I turned off my flashlight and pressed myself against the wall. Figures passed by, shapes in the dark. At least 6, maybe more. One crawled, one dragged a piece of pipe behind it, clanking it against the concrete. They didn't see me. But one of them sniffed the air like a hunting dog catching a scent. I held my breath. It stopped, tilted its head. Then, slowly, it moved on. When I was sure they were gone, I moved again. This time, quicker. I made it to the ladder and started climbing. I didn't look down. I burst out onto 5th Street and slammed the grate shut behind me, gasping for air. But the world above wasn't any better. Sirens screamed in every direction. Smoke poured from downtown. A car sped by, sideswiping a hydrant and sending water into the air. A woman ran past barefoot, screaming something I couldn't understand. Her arms were covered in blood, but it wasn't hers. I stood there, stunned, covered in sewer grime, breathing heavy, trying to make sense of it. Then, someone grabbed me from behind. The grip on my shoulder was strong, too strong for someone just panicking. I twisted hard, knocking the hand away and stumbling back. It was a man in a security uniform, face pale and sweating, eyes darting like a cornered animal. "Don't go back down there," he shouted. "They're everywhere." "I know," I said, still catching my breath. "I saw him." He nodded, like that was all he needed. Then he pointed toward the east. "Safe zone's that way, or it was 15 minutes ago." "Who's in charge?" I asked. "No one," he said. "It's all falling apart." Then he ran. I stood there, trying to wrap my head around it all. This wasn't just some accident underground. Whatever was happening, it was spreading fast. I looked down 5th Street, fires, crashed cars, people sprinting in different directions. A guy in a suit was swinging a broken golf club at something I couldn't quite see. And then the scream. It came from a deli across the street, a woman's voice, raw and sharp. I don't know why I ran toward it. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe I didn't want to be alone. The front of the deli was smashed open, glass everywhere. I stepped over the broken door frame and into the cold stink of spoiled meat and spilled soda. That's when I saw her, curled behind the counter. A teenager, maybe 16, wearing an apron with the name Maya stitched on it. She had a wrench in one hand, knuckles bleeding, and she was shaking. "Hey," I said gently, raising both hands. "I'm not one of them." Her eyes locked on mine. "Prove it." I hesitated. "I just crawled out of a sewer. If I was one of them, you think I'd be talking to you?" She didn't laugh, but her shoulders relaxed slightly. "What happened?" I asked. "They came out of nowhere," she whispered. "Some customers started changing, biting people. One of them tore through the manager like nothing. I ran back here and hit the emergency lock, but the door didn't hold long." I peeked over the counter. The place was wrecked. Blood smeared on the floor. Chairs overturned, but no movement. "We've got to move," I said. "This place won't be safe for long." She nodded, still gripping the wrench like it was her lifeline. Outside, things were getting worse. A helicopter flew overhead, low and loud, then dipped sharply and disappeared behind a row of buildings. A few seconds later, there was a deep thud in the distance. I led Maya down a side street, away from the worst of the chaos. We kept close to the walls, ducking into alleyways when we had to. My plan was simple. Head to the service station on 9th and Cedar. It had an underground storage area with a lockable door. I used to check the drainage pumps there every few months. It wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. We passed a small park. That's when we saw them again. A group of people, 5 or 6, shambling across the grass. Some dragging broken limbs. One was missing half a jaw, but still moving like it didn't matter. Maya gasped. I put a finger to my lips and motioned for her to stay low. We crept behind a row of bushes, hearts pounding. I could hear them breathing. Wet, ragged, hollow. One of them turned its head toward us, then froze. My hand closed around a loose rock. If it charged, I'd try to distract it. But then, something incredible happened. Sirens. dozens of them. From the other end of the street came a convoy of military trucks. One slammed to a stop. Soldiers jumped out, real ones, fully equipped, masks on, weapons drawn. One of them shouted through a megaphone, "Get down! Stay on the ground!" Maya and I hit the dirt. A burst of light and sound exploded from the convoy, some kind of sonic grenade. The walkers reeled, confused. Then the soldiers moved in fast and precise, herding the creatures toward reinforced cages being wheeled off a truck. They weren't here to destroy them. They were trying to capture them. "Why are they doing that?" Maya whispered. "I don't know," I said, "but I don't like it." A soldier approached us, visor dark. "You two, up, move to the wall." We obeyed. "Are there others?" he asked. "Not with us," I said. "We're trying to get to shelter." He stared at me a long moment. "There's an evac point at the stadium. If you can get there before sundown, you've got a chance." Then he turned and jogged back toward his unit. The stadium, that was miles away, and the city wasn't getting any safer by the minute. I looked at Maya. "We need supplies," I said, "and we can't go the main roads." She nodded. "Back alleys, maybe rooftops." "Better than the sewers," I muttered. But even as I said it, I felt something tug at my memory. The tunnels, the old maintenance maps. There were other routes, ones no one had used in years, and one of them went straight under the stadium. It was a crazy idea, but maybe, just maybe, it was our best shot. We ducked into a boarded-up barber shop to catch our breath. The place smelled like dust and old shaving cream. The mirrors were cracked, and the floor was scattered with broken glass and loose change. I used a broom handle to jam the front door shut, then checked the back exit, locked from the inside. Good. Maya slumped into a chair, still clutching her wrench. "We can't go back down there," she whispered. "Not after what we saw." I crouched beside her. "You're right to be scared, I am too, but if we stay up here, we're sitting targets. The streets aren't safe, the rooftops are risky, but down there's a chance. I know those tunnels better than anyone." She looked at me, searching my face. "What if they're waiting for us?" "They probably are," I said honestly. "But I've got something they don't." "What?" "A full mental map of this city's underbelly." I walked to a tool cabinet near the back and forced it open. Inside was a metal lockbox. I knew some shops like this kept emergency radios or maps, maybe even rations. Instead, I found something better. Flares, gloves, a large flashlight, and a thick keyring that looked very familiar. I grinned. "These are sewer access keys, probably a leftover from the city crew that serviced this area." I tossed her a pair of gloves. "Let's move." We crept out through the back alley, sticking to the shadows. I led her down 3 blocks, past a flipped newsstand and a burning bus, before we reached the access cover I was looking for. It sat between 2 rusted dumpsters, almost hidden beneath a pile of leaves and fast food wrappers. With a groan, I lifted it. The dark hole yawned beneath us. "I'll go first," I said, climbing down the rungs into the familiar chill of the lower tunnels. The moment my boots hit the concrete, the old scent of mildew and iron wrapped around me like a second skin. Maya followed, face pale but determined. We were back in the belly of the city. And this time, I wasn't wandering blind. "Stay close," I whispered, "this way." I guided us through narrow corridors lit only by the beam of my flashlight. The water level was low, but every splash echoed far too loudly. Every time we turned a corner, I braced myself for something, someone, to come lurching out. But for a while, there was only silence. Then Maya froze. "Do you hear that?" she whispered. I paused. At first, I thought it was water dripping. Then I realized it was humming, faint, mechanical. I moved ahead and peered around a corner. A generator, a portable one, running on low power. Next to it was a stack of crates, tarps, and a field cot. Someone had been living down here. Stay alert, I said. We stepped into the small camp, inspecting the setup. The crates were marked with strange codes, letters and numbers I didn't recognize. Inside were sealed food packs, medical kits, and a radio set tuned to a dead channel. Then I found the journal. It was tucked beneath the cot, stained with water damage. I flipped through it. Handwritten entries, diagrams of sewer routes, notes on patrols, mentions of early test subjects. One page had been underlined several times. Subject behavior increasing in aggression and speed. Daylight sensitivity observed, requesting relocation of holding cells beneath stadium. My blood ran cold. Maya, this isn't just some accident. These tunnels were being used. For something. She looked at the crates. You think they made this happen? I didn't answer. We couldn't stay. Whoever left that camp behind was either long gone or part of something way bigger than either of us. We moved quickly now, heading east toward the old central line. I remembered a side shaft that led straight under the stadium. It would be tight, but it was our best chance. Then we heard them. Clanging metal, sloshing water, and something else, laughter. Not the joyful kind. It was broken, jerky, like someone mimicking a laugh but not understanding how it works. I killed the flashlight. We crouched in the darkness, hearts thudding, as two figures shambled past the tunnel ahead. They moved fast, too fast, and their skin glistened unnaturally, like plastic stretched over muscle. They didn't see us. When they were gone, I turned to Maya. We go now, quietly. We pressed on, through tight crawlways and knee-high sludge. I could feel the heat rising as we got closer. The old stadium had a sub-basement with old boiler systems, still warm even when unused. Finally, we reached the final hatch. I wiped grime off the nameplate. Main maintenance access arena sector. I turned the key and pushed the door open. What we saw inside made my stomach drop. There were cages, empty ones, dozens of them, all with broken locks and twisted doors. Chains snapped, control panels fried, and along the walls, scraped messages scrawled in chalk, claw marks gouged deep into the metal. This wasn't just a holding area. It was a testing zone. They were experimenting, Maya breathed. Here, in the city, underground. And then, echoing from above, we heard it. The roar of a crowd. But not cheers. It was screaming. The stadium wasn't abandoned. It was a trap. The sounds coming from above weren't cheering fans or a concert crowd. They were raw, panicked, and endless, shouting, pleading, the shriek of metal tearing. Something was happening up there, something awful. Maya gripped the bars of an empty cage. Why would they bring people here? I scanned the room. Maybe they weren't brought. Maybe they were lured. She looked at me, confused. This stadium, massive structure, solid foundation, plenty of space. If you wanted to test containment, if you needed to study panic or exposure in a real setting, this would be perfect. Say there's an evacuation alert. Funnel the crowd underground, lock the exits, see what happens. Maya's face paled. You think they're using this as a lab? Or they did, until it got out of hand. We moved deeper into the holding area, stepping over chains and broken restraints. Everything was twisted, scorched, clawed. It felt more like a nightmare than a real place. Then I noticed the control room above the cages, walls of glass and shattered monitors. I motioned to her. "Let's check it out." We climbed a narrow stairwell and slipped through the broken door. Inside, there were splashes of dark stains across the floor. Monitors flickered weakly. One still displayed a looping feed. A hallway, empty except for a single flickering light. I pressed a button. The screen jumped. Another hallway, this one not empty. A group of people. Security uniforms, lab coats, a few in plain clothes, trapped behind a blast door. Pounding, shouting, trying to get out. Then something fast blurred past the camera. The feed cut to static. Maya turned away. This is too big. This isn't some outbreak. It was planned, engineered." I didn't argue. I just started searching the drawers, hoping for something useful. Maps, clearance cards, anything. One drawer opened with a click. Inside was a folded sheet of paper with a detailed diagram. The entire sewer and utility network beneath the stadium. It showed multiple exits, including one labeled Maintenance Tunnel E, leading straight out to the East Industrial District. That was our ticket out. "We follow this path," I said. "It'll be tight, but it leads outside the quarantine zone." Maya nodded. "Then let's move." We left the control room, headed into a side corridor that matched the layout. As we walked, the lights flickered more frequently, and the air got warmer. Then, out of nowhere, an alarm. Low, droning. Somewhere nearby, a motion sensor had triggered. I pulled her into a utility closet and shut the door. Footsteps echoed outside. Fast, dragging. Then a sniffing noise, right outside the door. Maya clutched my arm so tight it hurt. The sniffing stopped. Silence. Then a slam, the door dented inward. Something had struck it hard. Again, a second hit, louder. The third blow nearly ripped it off the hinges. "We have to move," I whispered. I kicked open the opposite wall panel, old aluminum sheet barely hanging on. Behind it, an emergency crawlspace for wiring. We dove in, crawling fast as a door behind us gave way. Screeches followed us, sharp, echoing too close. I didn't look back, just crawled. The passage bent downward, then leveled. Ahead, I saw the rusted hatch matching the map's exit point. I rammed my shoulder into it, once, twice, until it groaned open. Cold night air hit my face. We tumbled out into the open, coughing, covered in grime. Behind us, the passage echoed with the distant screeches, but they didn't follow. Not yet. We were in the East Industrial District. Warehouses, power substations, chain-link fences. The streets were deserted. A few fires burned in trash bins. Abandoned trucks blocked the roads. But for the first time in hours, we were above ground and alone. "I can't believe we made it out of there," Maya whispered, staring back toward the stadium. I didn't answer. My eyes were fixed on the skyline. Black helicopters circled the city. Spotlights scanned rooftops, and from loudspeakers a new message echoed across the district. "Remain indoors. Authorities have the situation under control. Emergency responders are on their way. Do not attempt to flee." But there were no responders. There was no control. The message wasn't a warning. It was a cover-up. We moved through the streets, ducking into shadows, avoiding open spaces. I led Maya toward an old warehouse I used to work in. Used to hold sewer equipment and trucks. If we were lucky, it'd still have fuel. Inside, it was dark but intact. Rows of lockers, shelves of tools, and, thankfully, a service truck in the back. I checked the ignition. The keys were gone, of course, but I could hotwire it. I'd done it before. As I worked under the dashboard, Maya stood watch by the door. That's when she froze. "Behind you," she whispered. I turned slowly. and saw a man, or what used to be one. He wore a utility uniform like mine, sewer division. His skin was blotchy, and his eyes, vacant, glowing faintly in the dark. He didn't move like the others. He watched us. Then he spoke. "Don't run," he said, voice dry. "They're in the air now, in the water, in us." I stood slowly, keeping my hands visible. "What are you talking about?" He grinned, wide and wrong. "You saw the cages, you saw the tapes, you know." Maya whispered, "Let's go, now." I stepped between her and the man. "We're leaving. Don't try to stop us." He chuckled. "You think you're still clean? You've been breathing the same air, walking the same tunnels. You're already part of it." And then he turned and walked away. Just disappeared into the dark rows of equipment. I hot-wired the truck in under a minute. Maya climbed in beside me, still shaken. What was that? Something that shouldn't exist. I hit the gas. As we pulled onto the empty street, the city behind us burned. The real question now wasn't how far we could run. It was how long we had left. The truck rumbled down cracked streets as the city burned behind us. It wasn't just smoke in the sky now. There were strange lights, flickering red and orange beams that pierced through the haze, like the horizon itself was pulsing. Maya sat in silence beside me, one hand on the dash, the other still gripping the crowbar from earlier. She hadn't spoken since the encounter in the warehouse. Neither had I. Whatever that man was, infected, possessed, something worse. He'd spoken with awareness. Not the mindless hunger we'd seen in the others. That meant there were levels to this thing, phases. Maybe even some kind of hierarchy. And we had no idea where we stood in it. "I think we need to find somewhere quiet," I finally said. "Away from the streets, away from whatever system is tracking us." She nodded. "You still think they're watching?" I pointed to a utility pole ahead, half smashed, but its mounted camera was intact, still powered, slowly panning. They never stopped. We took a sharp right into a side street lined with boarded-up shops and graffiti-covered walls. I pulled into a tight alley behind an old print shop I remembered from years back. I used to fix the drains under it. We killed the engine and sat there for a moment, letting the silence soak in. "This place have a back way in?" Maya asked. I nodded and led her to a rusted door, half hidden behind a pile of bricks. It opened with a hard shove. Inside, dust and mold. The air was thick but still breathable. We barricaded the entrance, checked the small office for supplies, and found a few bottles of water and a half-used flashlight. Then we waited and listened. That's when we heard the voices. Not moans, not growls. Voices. Clear, human, talking outside. We peeked through a broken section of wall and saw them. 3 people in hazmat suits walking in formation. They carried strange equipment glowing faintly blue. One of them knelt, scanned the ground, and spoke into a radio. Contamination confirmed, zone unstable, moving to sweep protocol. Another one added, reading high spore activity, atmosphere compromised. They weren't survivors. They were cleaning up. Maya whispered, "They're not here to help people. They're here to erase them." I nodded slowly. "They're not trying to stop the spread. They're trying to contain the evidence." One of the figures turned, facing our direction. The visor on his helmet glowed red for a moment. A soft hum filled the air, like a sonar ping. "They're scanning," I said. "We need to go, now." We slipped out the back and climbed onto the rooftops. From up there, we could see more of the city. Roads blocked by tanks, helicopters hovering near towers, fires marking whole blocks. Whatever this was, it wasn't local. It wasn't an accident. We made our way across rooftops, careful not to make noise. Finally, we reached a water tower near the edge of the district. From there, we could see beyond the city, hills, forests, no lights, no fires. Just darkness and safety. Maybe. We make for the tree line, I said. We don't stop until the roads run out. But then we saw it. A convoy, trucks, dozens of them, moving fast, heading toward the city. Each one marked with a strange black symbol, an eye inside a triangle. They weren't military. And they weren't here to help. Below them, on the streets, infected wandered. Some slow, others moving with purpose, but none of them touched the trucks. None of them even reacted to them. "They're not attacking them," Maya whispered. "Why not?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. We waited until the last truck passed, then climbed down. We hit the road again, moving on foot now, cutting through backyards, alleyways, broken fences. Every few blocks, we found signs of panic. Cars left with doors wide open, backpacks spilled, shoes scattered in the road. But no people. They were either gone or something else now. Around midnight, we found a gas station on the outskirts. The lights were off, the doors half open. Inside, it was wrecked but not destroyed. We scavenged what we could, canned food, bottled drinks, a hand-cranked flashlight. In the back room, we found a radio. It buzzed with static, but one frequency cut through. Containment perimeter failed. Eastern sectors compromised. All remaining assets retreat to fallback point Echo 7. Do not engage unless instructed. I turned the dial. Another voice came through, calm, robotic. If you are hearing this message, you are in an unauthorized zone. Remain calm. Help is on the way. Do not resist. Maya shook her head. That's not help. That's a script. A warning, dressed as comfort. I shut the radio off. We stayed in the gas station until dawn began to creep across the sky. Faint light, soft shadows. Birds didn't sing. No dogs barked. It was a city without a pulse. Maya leaned against the wall. 12 hours, she said quietly. We made it 12 hours. I looked out the window. Then, let's make it 12 more. She nodded. What happens after that? I paused and answered honestly. I don't know, but we'll find out. We stepped back onto the street, just as a long, low horn echoed across the sky, a sound like something awakening, like a gate opening. We looked to the horizon and saw the black shape rising, not a helicopter, not a plane, something massive, and it was heading our way. It came from the clouds like a shadow being lowered by invisible strings, silent, massive, and too perfectly shaped to be anything natural. I don't know what I expected, maybe a drone, some kind of command ship. But this was something else. It hovered over the city like a ceiling, black metal etched with pulsing patterns that shifted like veins. It didn't make a sound, but every bone in my body vibrated as it passed. My ears rang, my vision blurred at the edges. It wasn't just a machine. It was something that made you feel small, something that rewrote the rules of fear just by existing. Maya stared at it in disbelief. That's not human tech. No, I said quietly, it's not. Then the sirens started again. But this time, they didn't rise from buildings. They echoed from the sky itself, like the air was warning us, or mocking us. And all at once, the infected changed. They stopped shambling, stopped moaning. All across the city they froze in place, then turned in sync toward the object in the sky. They dropped to their knees. It wasn't worship, it wasn't fear, it was obedience. I felt my breath catch in my throat. They're not just sick, they're connected. Maya backed away. We have to leave, right now. We took the side roads, ducking under fences, cutting through backyards overgrown with weeds. No time to think, just move. Just survive. By the time we reached the tree line on the city's edge, the sky was fully lit, but it wasn't the sun that did it. That thing above the city glowed now, casting beams downward. It looked like it was scanning, searching, or worse, controlling. In the distance, we saw the infected begin to move again, not randomly this time. They marched, organized. They weren't hunting. They were forming ranks. A group passed near a road not 50 feet from us. No snarling, no chaos, just precision, like they had been programmed. One of them, a tall figure in the tattered hospital scrubs, looked in our direction. I don't know if he saw us. I don't think I want to know. But he didn't follow. He just kept marching with the rest toward the beam of light in the center of the city. Maya whispered, "They're going to the center." I nodded. Whatever's controlling them, that's where it is. We stayed low, moving deeper into the woods. The signal faded. The buzzing in our heads lessened. We found an old service cabin half buried in leaves and rust. I broke the lock and we got inside. There, for the first time in hours, we rested. No screams. No pursuit. Just the distant low hum from the sky. I checked my phone again. Still no signal, no texts. Just the last message from the city alert system frozen on the screen. Shelter in place. Await further instruction. I turned it off. "What do we do now?" Maya asked. I looked at her, dust-covered, exhausted, crowbar still in hand like it had become part of her. "We survive," I said. "We figure it out, day by day." She smiled, faintly. "You're surprisingly hopeful for a guy who used to fix pipes." I shrugged. "Hope is all we've got left." We ate canned food in silence and took turns sleeping. By the next sunrise, the object in the sky had vanished. But the infected didn't. They were still out there, some wandering the highways, others standing in silent rows near old broadcast towers, just waiting. For a signal, for a command. Or maybe for us. I found an old notebook in the cabin and started writing everything down. Names, locations, times, what I saw in the tunnels, what I saw in them. Someone has to remember. Someone has to leave a record in case the world ever goes back to normal. I was a sewer maintenance worker. I wasn't trained for any of this. But I survived. Not because I'm special. Not because I was lucky. But because when the world started falling apart, I kept moving. And if you're reading this, if you're still out there, do the same. Keep moving. Stay quiet. Stay human. Because the world above may be gone, but the tunnels still go deep. And not everything that crawled up from them has shown itself yet. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support keeps these creepypastas coming. Until next time, stay alert, stay safe, and never ignore the feeling that something is watching.